And welcome back to the Power Accountability League. I'm your pal Dan L. This is my channel. And will Hollywood ever resurrect the original Kal El? I don't know. Who's the original Kal El? Let's see. A couple of teenage boys in Ohio in the 1930s came up with Superman, also known as Kal El. They imbued him with the wisdom to embrace truth, justice, and the American way. Is that what Kal El represents now? I don't think so. But we'll talk a little bit about that more later in the video. Right now, we're going to give you the name of the video, which is Surely There Must Be Some Good News. That's the name of the video. Surely there must be some good news. And there is some good news, and don't call me Shirley. You can call me Shirley. We both like the movie Airplane. You can call me Shirley. Um, and the good news is all about Kyle Rittenhouse. We're going to talk about that. I'll share some facts, some opinions, and we're going to start off by applauding the jury. They exonerated him. He should have never gone to trial. Should have never been charged with all the crimes he was charged with. He was the hero on the night in question when he shot three people, two of them dead, one of them wounded. He's the hero. He was the victim. The other three people were the aggressors. They were the violent aggressors. But first, let's get right to the verdict as it was it was delivered by the jury. So, let's see here. Oops, there we go. First degree reckless homicide, use of a dangerous weapon, not guilty. First degree recklessly endangering safety, use of a dangerous weapon, not guilty. First degree intentional homicide, use of a dangerous weapon, not guilty. Attempted first degree intentional homicide, use of a dangerous weapon, not guilty. First degree recklessly endangering safety, use of a dangerous weapon, not guilty. Possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18, dropped. Failure to comply with an emergency order from state or local government, dropped. Okay, so we have 7 charges there. And what do government prosecute? And by the way, the government exists at federal level, state level, and the local level, city level. What do they all do? What do they all have in common? They overcharge you. They want to break you down and have you plead to something of a. They say we're going to charge you with crimes that'll put you away for the rest of your life. But you know what? We're nice guys. We'll cut you a break. Well, if you plead to a lesser charge, you'll only go to prison for a year or two, and then you'll be out, and everything will be wonderful. And by the way, I know from firsthand experience, whenever a prosecuting attorney is going to do you a favor, it's not a favor. If you're a good, decent person, and you've done nothing wrong, and you ever get charged with a crime, take it to trial. Yes, the jury may find you guilty, but if you plead to a lesser charge, now you've got that on your record forever, and now you will always be referred to as the bad person. Because even though this happens all the time in America. Someone pleads to a lesser crime, and they may be guilty of it, or they may not be guilty of it, but they plead, or this is why people, by the way, corporations and the government pays out settlement awards. The corporations and the government gives people millions of dollars, and all sorts of frivolous lawsuits are filed against corporations and the government. And the governments pay out money, and the corporations pay out money because they don't want to go to trial, because they're afraid that the jury might screw it up. And I understand that. It's legitimate to be afraid the jury will screw it up, and the jury will convict an innocent person. It's happened. We all know it's happened. And the jury we've also seen juries take evil criminals and let them off scot-free. That's not what happened here, by the way. So people are afraid of a jury trial, and I get it. But in this case, they overcharged. Did you notice the repetitive nature of the charges? And 2 of them were dropped. Why were 2 of the charges dropped? Why? He was charged seven charges against Kyle Rittenhouse, 2 of them dropped. Because we found out that the prosecuting attorney didn't read the statute. That's what we found out. Because the judge like, I'm reading the statute here. Are you sure that this applies to Kyle Rittenhouse? And even though the prosecuting attorney would never say, no, I got it wrong, when asked specific questions about the statute, the prosecuting attorney is like, no, he doesn't. That doesn't conform to this case or whatever. Like one of it was possession of a dangerous weapon. Well, he didn't violate that particular statute because of the nature of his gun, the length of the barrel, etc. That was a charge that didn't apply to Kyle. So there are 2 charges that absolutely didn't apply. They got thrown out before the jury ever rendered a verdict, or they were asked to render a verdict. And that's because the prosecuting attorney didn't read the statute. Or if he did read it, he had a complete misunderstanding. Isn't that weird? A prosecuting attorney, someone who went to law school, someone who's been working for the government, someone who's been we assume has been prosecuting many cases over their career, and he read the two statutes and he either completely got them wrong or he just ignored the fact that they didn't apply to Kyle. And either one, that should disqualify that from that person from ever being a prosecutor. A prosecutor has two charges against Kyle, and he either completely misread them or he ignored the factual portion of the statute. And the other five he was found not guilty on. And I'm going to applaud the jury again. This is going to be a theme. I'm going to keep applauding the jury. Why? Now, I'm going to talk about the Supreme Court and the Kenosha jury. The Supreme Court would have gotten it wrong. They would have. Get rid of the Kenosha jury, take the 9 members of the Supreme Court, put them in Kenosha, and they would have gotten the verdict wrong. I guarantee it. And you know why? Because it's the reason they get almost every decision from the Supreme Court's wrong. Why are they all wrong? Because the Supreme Court doesn't have to live with the consequences of their actions. The Kenosha jury does. This is the whole problem in America, not just American society, global society. The people in charge don't have to live with the consequences of their actions. You think the people who run the Chinese Communist Party have to live with the consequences of their oppressive authoritarianism? No, they don't. Same in America. Billionaires are exempt from all the rules for you middle class and poor people. Same with politicians. These people pass all these laws. Corporations have all these corporate goals. And none of these things ever apply to the CEOs of corporations or the politicians elected office. They've exempted when Joe Biden had all these vax mandates. You know who he exempted? See, he exempted Congress and he exempted the judicial branch of government. Wow, isn't that interesting? The people who could push back against Joe Biden, the legislative branch of our government and the judicial branch, he exempted them from the vax mandates. Don't you find that a little bit strange? So anyway, in this case, I'm super happy about what happened. It's good news. We've gotten very little good news over the last 50 years. So we're going to celebrate this. And by the way, there's a channel called Awaken with J.P. Sears. It's a good channel. I watch it. J.P. Sears said in his channel that Kyle Rittenhouse should have never been there. In fact, that's the mantra from the left and the center and the right. Not everyone on the center, but most people on the center right say he should have never been in Kenosha. Well, let's break that down. Kenosha, Wisconsin, on fire, being burned to the ground. The police have been told to stand down. By who? By corrupt government officials. See, the police chief's abject coward, but he's not the problem. The mayor and the city council are the problem, aren't they? So I'm assuming the mayor told the police chief to stand down, so the police stood down. So now Kenosha's open season by hyper-violent criminals. Who's going to protect the innocent people, the decent people of Kenosha? The police aren't going to do it. They've got on a megaphone. Hello, decent people. Hello, law-abiding citizens. We're not going to protect you. So we have a boy who knows basic right from wrong. He transforms himself into Kal-El, into Superman. Remember, there were two Jewish boys in Ohio in the 1930s came up with Superman. And their values were truth, justice, and the American way. Sounds like the values of Kyle Rittenhouse. Sounds like those three boys have something in common. How is it that three boys have more wisdom than all of the adults in American society? All of the lawyers, everyone who's a member of the American Bar Association, everyone in the Supreme Court, everyone in Congress, everyone in the executive branch. How is it that teenage boys, in this case a 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse, and J.P. Sears says, well, he shouldn't have been there. Well then, okay, J.P., I've got a question. Have you ever heard the phrase, all it takes for the triumph of evil is that good men and women do nothing? Yeah, that phrase has been around for a long time. I didn't invent that phrase. I didn't come up with that sentence. All it takes for the triumph of evil is that good people do nothing. And in Kenosha, the adults said, we're going to do nothing. We're going to turn our city over to evil. Why? Evil can be defeated. Where were all the adults surrounding Kyle Rittenhouse? He was alone. Why was he alone? Because people like J.P. Sears don't have the courage. Now, I don't want to be too hard on J.P. He's a good person, and he does want civilization. He believes in a civil society. He believes in saving the United States of America. So he's a good guy. But The truth is, JP Sears, the truth is all you people on the right and the center, and definitely all the people on the left, we know what they believe. It's the people in the center and the right I'm speaking to. You people know right from wrong, just like Kyle does. Why did you all stay silent? Why did you? What does it remind us? It reminds us when Martin Luther King said, "History will remember all the people who stayed silent when black people were mistreated in the South." And Martin Luther King was correct. All the decent people in the North and the South, all the decent people in the USA who for over a century stayed silent as the South passed Jim Crow laws to basically re-enslave black. Not, it wasn't formal slavery, but it was black people were second-class citizens in their own country. And it was because of lousy laws by racist people, by bigoted, horrible people. And there were people who knew it was wrong, but they kept their mouth shut, just like in Kenosha. Decent people stayed inside. People and now suppose the story put forward by the defense attorney for Kyle Rittenhouse was that the local businesses, or at least one local business, asked Kyle to protect his business from vandalism. He said, could you erase the graffiti on my business? Could you protect it from vandalism? So Kyle was trying to, and he did. Kyle was a good guy. He's the victim. He was a hero who was victimized by evil criminals. That's what happened in Kenosha. That's what happened. And the reason the Kenosha jury said, "Yep, he's this," they didn't say this. And by the way, they were stalked. See, one of the stalkers. This is during the trial. They were stalked by an NBC journalist, and I think there were 3 different stalkers, but we know for sure one stalking the jury, trying to intimidate them. They were from the mainstream media, from the legacy leftist media. How come those people aren't in prison right now for trying to intimidate a jury is against the law? What about the guy who was trying to beat the crowd, was trying to, I don't know, kill, who was violent towards Kyle, Gaige Grosskreutz? I can't pronounce his name. Gaige, Gaige. I got that right. His last name is Grosskreutz. He should have been on trial. Why wasn't he on trial? He should be the one going to prison right now, but he's not. Instead, we put Kyle Rittenhouse on trial when he was the victim. He was trying to protect us. He was trying to preserve civilization. And there were no adults. It took a boy to know basic right from wrong. That city has lawyers and what about the religious leaders? Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Christian. What about all the Hindu? What about the religious leaders in Kenosha? Sure, there were some Christian leaders. Where were they? What about the politicians? How about the business owners? How come they couldn't defend their own businesses? Now, I think one of them took the stand and said, oh, no, I never asked Kyle Rittenhouse to protect my business. Wow, what a horrible person that business owner is. I never asked him to. Well, the story was at least one of them did. And it's easy for me to believe that. It's easy for you to believe that. Someone who owns a car dealership, maybe they want, and their cars, and then for days now, their city's been set afire, including the businesses. Maybe the same dealership's been set afire. Maybe there's been dozens or 100 cars burned. And he says, enough. I hope someone will protect my property. But the person who owned these businesses, they weren't man enough or woman enough to protect their own property. They had to ask a boy to do it. That's where we find ourselves now in the 21st century. There are no adults, and I've said this in many videos. The adults are all gone. They all checked out. So now we have to rely on little boys and girls to do what men and women should do. There's no excuse for this. There's no justification for this. Turning a city, and this has happened over the last few years, starting shortly after Obama was elected, hundreds of cities gone up in flames, and the adults abdicated their responsibility to be adults, to be truly compassionate, to enforce the rule of law, because you can't have civilization without it. You can't have a civil society without the rule of law. And Kyle Rittenhouse should be remembered as a hero. And I know what, I hope he sues. The president called him a white supremacist. No evidence for that. In fact, he's a good guy. There's a lot of evidence. He's an upstanding citizen. So I hope Kyle Rittenhouse gets the attorney that Covington kids had and sues everyone he can for spending the last year of his life mislabeling him and trying to create a corrupt verdict. Horrible. The mainstream media is horrible. And the people who run it are horrible. That's today's video. Good news. Take care. Bye-bye.